Senior Business Development Officer of the Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship Department at the City of Markham. I also sit on the board of the Association of Chinese Canadian Entrepreneurs, ACCE, as Vice President and also Committee Chair for International Partnership. It is my great pleasure and also honor to be the host of today's virtual forum. And I would like to especially thank Mayor Scarpitti, Economic Development Chair, Councillor Alan Ho, and also our Vice Chair, Councillor Khalid Ushman, Commissioner Arthur Prasad, and also our Acting Director, Christina Kakaflikas, for their leadership and support. We are proud to collaborate with ACCE to deliver this very important program. It is our common goal to support Canadian businesses, explore global markets, and also to grow internationally. Today, we are excited to explore the various and many business opportunities in South Korea. We have a full agenda and also a line of excellent speakers. At the end of the session, I hope you will walk away with information and also tips that will help your business successfully navigate the South Korea market. But some housekeeping notes before we begin. So I put everyone on mute. Please use the chat function to communicate with me. And also please turn off your camera to preserve bandwidth and stay muted until the breakout session. Today's session will be recorded and we'll be sharing the link to the recording after the session. So today's agenda will start with welcome remarks by our special guests, followed by presentation and also an Q&A session. We will then have 30 minutes of networking session when the presenters will be hosting separate meeting rooms. So this is a very unique opportunity to connect with the presenters and also your fellow participants. So please make sure you stay for this very special component of today's session. And without further ado, let me hand it over to Kevin Young, President of ACCE, co-host of today's virtual forum, to say a few welcoming remarks. Over to you, Kevin.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is well and safe. Welcome to the ACCE Doing Business in South Korea virtual forum. Thank you for making the time and attend. I'm Kevin Young from ACCE. Today's event is co-presented by ACCE, the Association of Chinese Canadian Entrepreneurs, and the City of Markham. To give you a background, a bit of background on ACCE for those who are not too familiar, the Association of Chinese Canadian Entrepreneurs is a 26-year-old national leading Chinese Canadian business association with members residing from coast to coast, spanning a broad industry base. Each year, we host about 15 events, including our signature awards gala, some festive celebrations, themed events, targeting young entrepreneurs, Mandarin speaking group, women entrepreneurs, and professionals. And you have just heard from Sandra, today's event is also an initiative of our International Partnership Committee. Now for today, South Korea is a vibrant market for Canadian companies to export their products and services to. We're very fortunate today to have invited some great panelists to share with us their experience, know-how, and tools that could be relevant to those who are interested in entering the South Korean market. Specifically, I'd like to thank in advance for joining us today on the panelists, Taehyun Chung, Director General, Korea Trade Investment, Sue Ralph, the Deputy Director of Global Affairs Canada, Patrice Gwendon, Chief Representative Asia of EDC, Don Romano, President and CEO of Hyundai Auto Canada Corp, and Leo Park, lead of Shopify Korea. I'll also be joining the panelists myself as a business owner operator as well. I want to thank the City of Markham for providing the opportunity for us to co-host this event and with their resources. In fact, in actually quite a timely way, I want to congratulate the Mayor and City of Markham for having just been recently recognized by Forbes magazine as a top municipal employer in Canada. You hear about the mayor being the second longest serving mayor in Markham occasionally, but I guess that's why. Once again, congratulations. And now I would like to invite Mayor Scarpitti to share his welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to assume that you can hear me because Sandra's not waving frantically. So thank you and welcome to everyone. It really is a pleasure to be here with you. And unfortunately, because our regional council meeting went a little long, the whole schedule's been thrown off. So I don't think I can stay as long as I had anticipated to stay, but certainly know that all of you will get great value from this webinar. I want to really say thank you to the Association of Chinese Entrepreneurs of Canada, and in particular, Kevin Young and his board of directors. You've just provided great leadership as an organization to Chinese entrepreneurs, not only celebrating their success, but I know supporting many of them when they first came here as newcomers. And that's what I love about an organization like yours. You really step into the community and you're a part of the community. It's not just in internal gatherings that you have among yourselves. So I say thank you for the great work that you do. I know we're going to hear from the Honorable Mary Ng, who is Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and Trade, and want to say thank you to her, not only for participating in her way today during this webinar, but the great value that she has brought to the role of minister, really promoting Canada, continuing to make the ties with our international partners, and of course, to all of the support they've given to small businesses over the past several months, trying to survive in these challenging times. I also want to say a special welcome and thank you to Consul General Tae-in Chung from the Republic of Korea. Consul General, thank you so much for being here today to first and foremost talk about the great opportunities that exist in Korea, but also to talk about your beautiful country. There's a lot to be proud of. And of course, as always has been mentioned already, I want to say thank you to Alan Ho, who's our Chair of Economic Development. Anyone that knows Alan knows the tremendous passion that he brings to the role. And I would say, first and foremost, is looking after the residents of Ward 2, but then also, right after that, it's economic development. So Alan, thank you for the great work that you do. And I believe some of our other colleagues, if they're not quite here yet, will be joining over the course of the afternoon. I know Deputy Mayor Don Hamilton, I hadn't seen him at the beginning, but maybe he's here. Councillor Amanda Colucci and Councillor Issa Lee are joining us. And, we have no boundaries here in York Region. When something good is happening, we always make an attempt to participate. So I also want to welcome my colleagues, Godwin Chan from the city of Richmond Hill and Sandra Young-Rocco from the city of Vaughan as well. And I would be remiss in a moment where our Economic Development Department, again, has demonstrated their commitment and their leadership during these tough times in partnering with ACCE for this webinar. Let me say this, that Christina Kakaflikas, our Acting Director of Economic Development, of course, Sandra Tam, who most of you know through the association, they have been working very, very hard over the past few months and ensuring that they're doing everything they can to support our local community. And again, today is another fine example of that. Now, I think most of you here today know that the city of Markham is the most diverse city in all of Canada. And we've been very, very fortunate. When I look at members of your association, it truly reflects the people that we have attracted to the city of Markham. They've come here highly skilled, highly educated, very entrepreneurial. And I can tell you that's what attracted many companies to our community. And I think today is also another example of how the city is globally connected. When you travel around the world, particularly in Asia, the Markham brand and name is known among many communities and certainly among some very prominent companies as well. And we're very proud that Korea is one of the top sources of our foreign direct investment here in the city of Markham. In addition to many of the small and medium-sized companies that call Markham their home, obviously Korean companies like Hyundai Canada, Nobis, Daewoo, and Shinhan Bank of Canada are here in Markham, and we're very proud to have those corporations here. Hyundai Canada has had their head office here in Markham for more than 35 years, and I'm so pleased to see the president and CEO, Don Romano, who will speak about the economic relationship and how important that is. But Don, in this moment, I wanted to say thank you again to you and your team at Hyundai for the incredible donations that you've made over the past several months to our institutions to protect our healthcare workers. You really, we've always been proud that you've been here in Markham because of your brand and what you stand for. But you've shown in these times that you've risen to the challenge and that you truly are a part in the fabric of this community. And I know he'll provide his insights about the opportunities between Canada and Korea. Kevin thanked our Economic Development Department. I think anyone that's dealt with them really appreciates that whether you're a big corporation, a medium-sized company, a small business, or someone who wants to start an enterprise in Markham, there truly is that concierge service. It's not just a quick hello and then you're forgotten about. We truly see and assist many companies to make sure that they're successful. And that really, truly, I think reflects the commitment that we have to grow trade between our businesses here in Markham and Canada and with great countries like Korea. So unfortunately, the pandemic has suspended many travel opportunities, the opportunity to do business internationally. But fair to say, we've taken up every opportunity to, in fact, continue building those relationships and continuing to really foster the relationships so that when life does go back to normal, we can further those relationships and provide greater support to our business community. But we wanted to make sure that we're doing everything we can. And I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the opportunity to do this virtually and reach out. There is a lot, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about what's happened in Korea. It's incredible now that it is the 11th largest economy in the world and the fourth in Asia, and ranks among one of the exciting overseas markets for Canadian businesses with numerous diverse opportunities. And Korea is a gateway for Asia Pacific market for Canada. And incredible what's happened there over the past several years. You really have demonstrated the global competitiveness and the ability to compete globally with many different fields, such as mobile phones, semiconductors, automobiles, with companies like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, just to name a few. And in recent years, and I can attest to this now, because I have to admit, we've had some pretty long days during this pandemic. And every once in a while, I wind down, even as late as it is, by watching a Netflix movie. And I can tell you, I have enjoyed some wonderful Korean films over the past several weeks. They've been recommended to me, and I'll tell you, it's been moving. I've sat at the edge of my seat with a few of the horror films, but it's incredible to see the cultural contribution that Korea has made to the film industry that truly has gotten international recognition. So with that, I hope today continues to open up more opportunities for our businesses. I wish I could stay to the very end. Like I said, unfortunately, our regional council meeting went extremely long today to talk about the pandemic and things that we need to do. But Kevin mentioned certain individuals that I also want to say thank you to all of our speakers, to Young Hwa Jung, Director General of the Korea Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Yes, to Sue Roth, Deputy Director of Global Affairs Canada. And I want to say thank you because on more than one occasion, we get tremendous support from Global Affairs Canada when we're doing international work. And to Patrice Gooden, Chief Representative, Asia Export Development Canada, and to Leo Park, Shopify Korea, and of course to Don Romano once again, and to Kevin, who I always enjoy listening to, no matter what he talks about, anything from business to clothing to growing the opportunities internationally. Take full advantage of the wonderful network that we have here, because this network here truly opens the doors around the world. Thank you, and wish you the best during this session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your remarks. And so we all know how incredibly supportive the Honorable Minister Mary Ng, Ministry of Small Business, Export Promotion and Trade, has been to Canadian businesses. She led a successful virtual trade mission to South Korea, actually just last October. Now let's play the video from Minister Ng.
Hello, bonjour, annyeonghaseyo, and ni hao, everyone. Thank you to Kevin, to Mayor Scarpitti for hosting us today, and hello to Mr. Tae-in Chung, the Consul General to the Republic of Korea, and Mr. Younghwa Jung, who is the Director General of KOTRA. As many of you are here today may know, last November, I was honored to host Canada's first ever virtual trade mission to South Korea. This mission not only launched a range of new business relationships, but it yielded an incredible discussion on the many paths forward in our bilateral trade relationship. So I am thrilled to be here today to explore even more opportunities for Canadian businesses to succeed in South Korea's dynamic and growing market. Canada knows that Korea is not only an important market, but also a trusted partner with a generations-old relationship built on strong people-to-people ties, including the thousands of Korean students who are studying here in Canada and over 200,000 Canadians of Korean descent who call Canada home. In 2015, understanding the strength that these ties bring, the government took the relationship a step further by signing Canada's first and only bilateral trade agreement in the Asia Pacific, choosing Korea as a partner for the historical deal. Since it came into force, bilateral trade has increased nearly 30% over pre-Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement levels, benefiting a range of Canadian businesses. This means good jobs for Canadians, more opportunities for Canadian entrepreneurs, and increased global exposure for Canadian products and innovation. Like the Toronto-based biotech company, Cyclica, whose proprietary AI integrated drug discovery platform is used by renowned South Korean healthcare company, Yuhan Pharmaceuticals, in its oncology-related research and development. This is just one example of the incredible strides our two countries can make by working together. It is clear that COVID-19 has pushed many countries to turn inward and to restrict trade in an effort to protect their people and their economies. Canada and Korea both believe that the way forward is not to limit trade, but rather to introduce more entrepreneurs to global markets and to expand their presence in the digital economy, including more market access for women, youth, Indigenous peoples, visible minorities, and small business owners. And we will continue to work with partners like ACCE and the City of Markham to foster opportunities in the region that will foster and further a more inclusive, innovative, and sustainable economic recovery. You have had a great lineup of speakers waiting, including my colleagues, Sue Roth from the Trade Commissioner Service and Patrice Gooden from Export Development Canada, two excellent representatives of organizations that are part of what I call Canada's trade toolbox. I know that the ideas and the conversations to be had will be fruitful, and I wish you all a very productive session. Thank you. Merci. 감사합니다. Chiche.
Okay, thank you, Minister Ng. Now it's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Tae-in Chung, Consul General of the Republic of Korea in Toronto. Mr. Chung was appointed in Toronto in December 2017. He is responsible for strengthening Korea's cooperative relations with Ontario and Manitoba in trade, investment, culture, education, and tourism. Mr. Chung is a career diplomat with over 30 years of distinguished service. Prior to his current appointment as Consul General in Toronto, he served different diplomatic roles at the Korean embassies in India, Malaysia, Norway, Russian Federation, France, etc. So domestically, he served as Deputy Director General at the African and Middle Eastern Affairs Bureau and Director of the South and East Africa Division. Please welcome Consul General Tae-in Chung. Consul General, please unmute yourself. Now we can hear you. Yes, that's good. It's working.
Sandra, thank you very much for your kind introduction of myself. Good afternoon, and good to see everybody here. Ni hao, Jin Tian, Wo Hen Hao. 新年快乐，恭喜发财。Hello, Mr. Mayor, the Frank Scarpitti, come stai? And distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen from ACCE and Markham City and Global Affairs. I'm very pleased to join you here for this virtual forum doing business in Korea. And I love this opportunity of meeting with the Chinese-Canadian business community too. In Canada, a country harmonizing long-lasting and deep-rooted diversities across the world, Chinese-Canadians have surely contributed a lot to the building of the current Canada. With the well-known Chinese wisdom's house accumulated waiting for you. As you may know, Korea is one of the most vibrant, dynamic, and competitive economies in the world. Korea has proved it by making a success story in a short span of time through innovation, adaptation, and entrepreneurial spirit. Korea has emerged as the 11th largest economy and 8th largest trading country in the world. Korea seems to have only abundant human resources, so it inherits the spirit of creative dynamism from the Eurasian continent and the wisdom of the refined elegance from China and India, probably through migration and mutual interaction. All this together was the basis for the recent success story of Korea. Canada is right to choose Korea as a close economic cooperation partner. Canada has also great potentials. It is a leading country in the area of innovations, together with the traditional service and the manufacturing industries, endowed with the abundant natural resources, based on the multinational global network. Thus, I can say the GTA, including Markham, the economic heart of Canada, deserves the 4 titles. First, another Silicon Valley. Second, another Hollywood. Third, original York compared to New York. And lastly, hub of the global ethnic network. You may understand the meaning of the 4 titles. These days, the 2 countries are approaching each other. The sizes of the 2 economies are comparable with each other. The economic structures are complementary to each other. And the 2 countries are adopting similar strategies of fair trade and diversification. Suddenly, the geopolitical and geoeconomic destinies are converging each other in the era of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Against these backdrops, I expect the continued contribution of the Chinese-Canadian business circle to advanced and prosperous Canada by promoting business opportunities with Korea. And I hope today's forum offers insights into the new and expanded trade and investment opportunities. There is no doubt about Korea-Canada collaboration in leading the post-COVID-19 world. I'll finish it. The details will be followed by the Director General of KOTRA, Mr. Chung. Thank you very much. Xie.
Thank you, Consul General Chung. 감사합니다. So without further ado, let's now dive into the panel discussion. So we will begin with presentation by the panelists, followed by a moderated discussion. And during the presentation, please submit your questions in the chat box. We'll be moderating the chat box, and the questions will be taken up during the Q&A session. Now, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Yonghwa Chung, Director General of Korea Trade and Promotion Agency, KOTRA. Mr. Chung has been with KOTRA for 28 years, including 14 years in overseas branches. He has extensive knowledge and experience in promoting and facilitating bilateral trade and investment between Korea and its trading partners across the world. Mr. Chung, please tell us everything about South Korea and also KOTRA.
Yes, thank you very much for kind instructions. I will share my presentations. Can you see my presentations?
Not yet. Yes, now we can see it now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So, ni hao, jen tai. Okay. My name is Yonghwa Chung, Director General of KOTRA Toronto. First of all, I would like to deliver special thanks to Honorable Mary Ings, Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade, and Mr. Frank Scarpitti, Mayor of Markham City, and Tae-in Chung, Consul General of the Republic of Korea, and Kevin Youngs, President of ACCE, and all the distinguished participants for organizing this wonderful meeting today. First, I'm going to give a brief overview of Korea economy and market, and then we are going to look at the trade relationships between Korea and Canada. Let's start Korea economies. Korea has grown into the world's 11th largest economy. It was its 12th in 2019, but it has jumped one step forward during the COVID-19. Korea boasts a strong economic fundamental as it is ranked 8th in trade volumes, 5th in trade account, and 8th in number of listed companies, 9th in foreign exchange reserves, and national brand value as well. Let me show you the Korea's leading industry. Foldable OLED display, TV, NAND flash, EV batteries, shipbuildings, and DRAM has #1 market shares in the world. As you can see, OLED display takes 89.2%, TV 51.1%, NAND flash is 43.3%, EV battery is 37.6%, shipbuilding 37%, DRAM takes 73.5% of the global market shares. Korea has FTA with 56 countries, covering 77% of global GDPs, including EU and China, ASEAN, and US, as well as Canada. It means that once you set up your office in Korea, you can access 77% of global market. According to the World Bank Doing Business Report 2019, Korea was ranked the 5th easiest place to do business in the world. Number 1 is number is not. Number 2 is Singapore. Third is Hong Kong. Fourth is Denmark. Now let me explain why you should consider entering the Korean market. First, Korea has a big domestic market. Korea ranks 14th in terms of domestic market size. Korean market is bigger than Spain and Canada. Korea is also a gateway to access Chinese and Japanese market, which ranks 1st and 4th, respectively. Korea has also powerful consumers. We ranks #1 in steel consumptions, fishery product consumption, movie watching frequencies. We ranks 3rd in spending on mobile applications and skincare market value and number of Starbucks stores. Our e-commerce market is beyond the booming. It leads the industry transformations and create new distribution channels. It means that you can easily access the Korean market by using e-commerce. Our e-commerce sales shows that is travel agent takes 12.9%, food and beverage 9.9%, cosmetic is 9.1%, household is 7.4%. Korean market is well known for a test bed for Asian market expansions. As I mentioned before, we have lots of sophisticated and powerful consumer and early adopters. You can see a lot of global companies such as Starbucks and Dole, Audi, Infiniti, Chrysler, YouTube, and Estée Lauder, Tepper, and Intel are using Korean market as test market for Asia. Now let's move to trade relationship between Korea and Canada. Korea is Canada's seventh largest export destinations, and Canada export to Korea reached $5.75 million in 2019, increased by 44.6% since 2015. I think the Canadian companies are enjoying more benefit than Korean companies from free trade agreement between two countries. Korea-Canada Free Trade Agreement has enforced on January of 2015. Tariff has been reduced dramatically. It has been very helpful to strengthen our economic relationships. In the long terms, only 1.8% of Canadian product and 2.2% of Korean product will be subject to tariff by 2032. As a result, over the 65 Canadian companies, such as Nobis, Magnus, Bombardier, are doing their business successfully in Korea. You can learn from Mr. Kevin Young's, president of Nobis, how he succeeded business in Korea. I hope all of you can be added in the successful list next year. I know many small and medium-sized companies are suffering and struggling to survive due to COVID-19. But we have good news. The number of COVID-19 cases are dramatically decreased in Canada as well as in Korea. We are now seeing a small light in the long tunnel of COVID-19. I think there are big business opportunity after finishing COVID-19 pandemic. So please stay healthy and safe until finish COVID-19 pandemic. This is my presentation today. If you have any question, please contact or email me at any time. KOTRA Toronto office will always be with you as a global business partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director General Chung. For sure, we want to see more Canadian companies listed in your last slide. So this is, and I just want to let everybody know that we'll be sending out a follow-up email with links to the presenters' PowerPoints. So as we all know, the Canadian governments support Canadian exporters in many ways. As you have heard in the video, Minister Ng mentioned the Trade Commissioner's Office and also Export Development Canada as Canada's trade toolboxes. So our next speaker is Sue Ralph, Deputy Director and Trade Commissioner at the Regional Office of the Trade Commissioner's Office of Global Affairs Canada. Sue has worked for the Government of Canada for 20 years, with many of those years focused on supporting Canadian companies and partners in strengthening their international connections. Over to you, Sue. So Sue, please make sure you unmute yourself.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue.
I'm just trying to bring my presentation up. My screen sharing is paused at the moment. New share. Let's try that. How am I doing?
We can see your screen.
You can? Terrific.
Yeah, we can see it. It's now on slide 2.
Perfect. Oh, well, I can. That's perfect.
There we go.
I'll go to slide 2 for a minute. Well, thank you very much. First of all, Consul General, Director General, my fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. I really want to thank the City of Markham and ACCE for their work to hold this session and for the invitation to participate. It is our absolute pleasure as the Trade Commissioner Service of Global Affairs Canada to be a part of these working dialogues to help Canadian firms get more invested in international markets. So thanks so very much. For many of you out there, I see a number of very familiar names on screen as participants. So welcome to you and looking forward to a robust session and questions, both during presentations or after presentations and in breakout rooms. It's a terrific opportunity to connect and reconnect for many of us. So thanks very much. I am a trade commissioner and I work within the Ontario Regional Office of the Trade Commissioner Service of Global Affairs Canada. And as such, I am part of a robust international business ecosystem in Canada and abroad that supports a myriad of approaches for Canadian firms to succeed in global and international markets. And today, speaking, you're going to hear and have heard already some both excellent general and very specific guidance about tackling international business, about market diversification, about the Republic of Korea and the South Korea market landscape. It really is a fantastic a lineup of resources and information. So to start, I'm just going to give you a big overview of what the Trade Commissioner Service, or the TCS, is. And just remind you, the TCS has been serving Canadian companies free of charge for 126 years. We're 1,000 employees working within Canadian embassies, high commissions, and consulate generals around the world, more than 160 points of service worldwide. And within each of these Canadian entities is a trade section in which trade commissioners work. Our Embassy of Canada to the Republic of Korea has a trade section 17 persons strong. 17, that's an immense number actually. Led by our Senior Trade Commissioner, Tudor Hera, they are a super strong team covering all sectors from automotive to life sciences to technology to food. These trade commissioner colleagues are but more importantly, are your asset, and they hold a wealth of market context and contacts. We also have about 1,000 employees who work in Canada. About 850 of these employees work in Ottawa, and they provide policy support, trade guidance, and negotiation skill. They provide the backbone of support to strong bilateral and multilateral relationships. They negotiate and bring into existence free trade agreements like the Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement. They create programming that spurs Canadians to action and success in international markets, like our Canadian Technology Accelerators. They create tools with partners to demystify export processes, like the Canadian Tariff Finder, and they develop step-by-step guides and checklists to help you prepare and mitigate risk. There are also about 150 trade commissioners who serve in our 6 regional offices across Canada. I work within the Ontario Regional Office, and we are a team of 35 people who are dedicated to boosting the number of Canadian firms to international business success, and we can be connected with in real time and without leaving Canada. The Trade Commissioner Service, within our teams, across our network, we offer 4 core services to Canadian companies. Preparing for international markets is the first core service. And this is traditionally where trade commissioners working from within the regional office focus effort on helping a Canadian company refine their thinking and prepare for international markets. And I said it before, and I can't say it enough, the mantra under this kind of skill set is really about prepare, prepare, prepare. And in particular, it's about preparing an international business plan and writing it down. Trade commissioners are excellent sounding boards, but we need something to sound off against. So you need to put it down on paper, put it down on an electronic document. The second key service that the Trade Commissioner Service offers to Canadian companies to help you explore and succeed in international markets is the Market Potential Assessment Service. And this means we can help you determine the level of opportunity that does exist in a particular market. What is the best approach to the market? And what is the amount of effort and resources you will need to mobilize to be successful in this market? This is often a key service of trade commissioners in market or at post. Our team in Seoul, for example, would be able to provide feedback to your existing international business plan. The third service is the identification of qualified contacts. And in a nutshell, it's business matchmaking. And it's a service we provide on a regular basis to our clients, either during business missions or individually. The fourth service is commercial problem solving. And this means that although we can't enter into private disputes or act on your behalf in legal disputes, we can advise on market access problems and other business challenges, such as customs clearance and shipping, unfair business treatment, and contract bidding. They are all powerful tools that are available to you. Next, I want to take just a very quick look at our export continuum or exporter's journey. This slide is meant to impress on you that there are many stages of growth and scale as an exporter, and that there are many resources to help you along the way. Minister Ng, in her welcome message at the beginning of this session, made reference to Canada's trade toolbox. This is it. So maybe I should change the graphic to an actual toolbox, but this is where it is at. A couple of things to notice about this continuum is first, that despite its kind of blocky appearance, the exporter's journey is not always super linear. Though there is a kind of elapsed time, it is not necessarily that you're going to move through each of these steps like clockwork. You might jump a step, you might return to a step, and that's okay. Every kind of preparation and move forward, and we're going to hear from some really excellent speakers later about their own unique business journeys, and you're going to see that it can be very different for very different sectors and different businesses, and all of that is just fine. It works out. You might not spend the same amount of time in each stage or with a particular resource person, myself or another federal family member or a city economic development officer member. It just doesn't, there's just no one way to do it. Second, I just want to draw your attention and remind you that most of the international trade resources that are listed in here, and this is not a completely inclusive list, we could certainly add to it, and I would welcome additions to this list, that these international trade resources are really committed to a serve or refer model. The grid can look really complicated, and in a way it is. I mean, international business is complex, but each organization can act as a facilitator or a guide through this journey. For example, if the Trade Commissioner Service, if we cannot serve, support, or provide service, we are delighted to provide guidance and warm connection into other networks. This is a hallmark of good client service for federal, provincial, and municipal helpmates who are there to support you in your work. I also wanted to just touch upon the Can Export program. It's a suite of financing, cost share funding that is available to small and medium-sized exporters to help in your efforts to internationalize. Just a quick brief overview. We can talk more specifically at a later date and in breakout rooms about the specifics of the funding and what's on tap for it during the next fiscal year. But Can Export, the name really says it all. It is the desire to do more and the desire to support your firm in doing more internationally. And it is all about market diversification. So if you have the South Korean market as your destination, we need to talk about what the steps of your preparation are towards gaining traction in that market. And this program, Can Export, SME, small and medium-sized enterprises, can potentially help to leverage and lower your risk in entering those markets. It is a cost-sharing program with a 75-25% ratio where the Government of Canada supports 75%, but the firm, you, supports 25% of a project scoped out by you, the firm. It is implemented in collaboration with our partners. So it's great news that we can work with and build on efforts that you are already working on with other agencies, departments, municipalities. And it is right in line, as I said, with those market diversification goals, with the objective that for Canadians, we would like to increase overseas exports by 50% by 2025. And slide 6, just wanted to give a shout out or maybe hopefully words of encouragement. This slide is really just presenting a lot of good old common sense guidance about exporting international business plans. As much as I've said, you know, the mantra is prepare, 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 equally, you have to stop at some point and start doing. You've got to call a halt to information gathering. You cannot, nobody is ever going to create total perfection. Perfection is the enemy of the good. You want to have a super solid, demonstrated and thought through program, but you've got to get it out there. If you write a very pithy, punchy profile, a really good company paragraph or 2 paragraphs that really captures your intentions, that will stand you in excellent stead in any number of moments of interactions, both with government departments, buyers, partners. It's really important that you have a really well-written, developed profile for your company. You really want to be able to deliver a really good pitch on your company as well. You want to be able to explain your value proposition and show your passion and the value of your product in a very tight and good presentation. You should have some form of financials ready or get them ready. Not necessarily an audited set, although in time that probably will be needed if you're looking at accessing a variety of different government programs. But you'll want to have just a good set of governance and financials available on request. You've got to trust what you're doing domestically already as well. As they say, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you're looking to change and move into international markets, you do need to take lots of different things into consideration, but you have to look at what you're doing right and well within your domestic marketplace first, and let's see how we can work and translate that into success in overseas markets. If you can certify your product or your firm as a diverse supplier, as belonging to one of the inclusive or underrepresented trade groups, if you have a sector where there is professional accreditation or professional marks available, it is absolutely a great idea that you go after and certify yourselves. They are great marketing tools, especially internationally. And I guess most importantly, the last 3, ask for feedback. going back to that Canada's trade toolbox, the number of resources that are out there to help you, reach out to them. We are available. We are open for conversation and ask for the specific feedback that you are looking for. Make some small actions. Maybe some of these step-by-step guides that are out there, you don't need to, as they say, boil the ocean. Take action, and it doesn't have to be huge steps, just some well-planned, well-documented small ones, and you'll be surprised how far you'll get. And follow up, follow up, follow up. It is a mantra, another mantra for any business, but relevant, timely, punctual follow-up can make all the difference. So just some thoughts there for you, some introduction to the Trade Commissioner Service, or reminders on who we are and what we do. And I look forward to questions and interactions after the fact. And I'll kick it back to Sandra, who will move the program along to my other family federal member.
So thank you, Sue, for those very practical advice. So now let's turn it over to Patrice Gwendon. Patrice joined Export Development Canada in 1997 after a career in corporate banking, was one of Canada's largest bank. He spent the early part of his career at ECD, leading and also underwriting transactions in the aerospace sector. In 2009, he led EDC's team advising the Canadian government on aerospace-related matters at what is currently known as the New Aircraft Sector Understanding Negotiations at the OECD. As Chief Representative for Asia, he is part of a geographical team responsible for supporting Canadian exporters and investors in Asia. So Patrice, please tell us what are the roles of EDC and how you and your team can help Canadian exporters and also investors expand their international business. So we'll be pulling up the slides for Patrice.
Thank you. Can we go to the next one, please? Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. And I want to take a moment before we start to recognize my colleague at the Trade Commissioner Service. We work very, very closely with them, hand in hand in a lot of circumstances. And the work they do has been recognized and not several times, but cannot be overstated. So my best advice would be never to hesitate to reach out to them. So to start here, a few comments. I would say that I think generally we know that companies that export do better, and that connections are critical to exporting. So before we start looking at, I would suggest you look for partners, and it's an understand to make some of the to make your connection more productive. If we look at the macro environment, I think we can say that South Korea has one of the most favorable business environment of all Asia. And this is largely due to the emphasis on infrastructure, a highly educated and skilled workforce, high standards of corporate governance, and the new free trade agreement that's currently in place. Overall, South Korea is one of the easiest countries in the world to conduct business, according to the World Bank. South Korea ranks 5th, actually, just ahead of the United States. Canada, just for your information, ranks 23rd. So South Korea is an important trading partner for Canada, and it's one of the top 10 export destination. The last data available we have for, and I think we've seen it before, but for 2019, shows that Canada exported 5.6 billion of goods and services to South Korea. So this is significant. We've seen a huge growth actually in trade between the two countries, particularly since the coming into entry of the free trade agreement between South Korea and Canada. In early January 2021, South Korea indicated its intention to join the CPTPP, which Canada is a member, and so we expect significant benefits from that if they were to join, mostly due to the fact that we could see increasing integration of their supply chain, and we see Canada being able to play a role there. Can we move to the next one, please? Next slide, please. Thank you. So in terms of our role at EDCs, in 2019, and we have not published our results yet for 2020, but we expect results to be roughly similar. But in 2019, EDC supported $903 million of trade between Canada and South Korea. That business volume is up from $740 million in 2017 before the signing of the free trade agreement between the two countries. This support went to 337 customers, 182 of which are SMEs. In terms of the sectors, 34% of the support went to the infrastructure and environment, 27% to extractive, and 15% to resources. When we ask our customer, when we have conversation with them and we ask them what are the factors that contributed the most to their success, our clients talk a lot about doing research prior to entering the market. They have said that the research in the areas of tax laws, compliance, and understanding the risks involved with entering a new market has paid off over time. Next slide, please. Thank you. In terms of solution, EDC, I would characterize EDC as having two types of solutions. One is financial, and the other one is knowledge. So when we look at our buyer financing program, we have done very little buyer financing in South Korea. And the reason is very simple, and it's the fact that South Korea has a very well banked and liquid banking market. So they have not relied on export credit agencies such as EDC to complete projects or for their financing. We have an export guarantee program, for those of you who don't know, and the program helps companies, typically small companies, with working capital. We have most of the support we've provided is through our credit insurance program, and by insuring receivables, that gives companies the ability to go to their bank and obtain financing based on obviously the backing of EDC. Our bonding program essentially enables you to have any letters of credit that you issue in support of trade transaction to be backed by EDC, and that frees up some working capital for you. Next slide, please. Over the last few years, we have been developing our knowledge and advisory services. A lot of the events that we hold are in cooperation with Trade Commissioner Service. We're leveraging essentially in both internal experts and external, such as the Trade Commissioner Service. We hold webinars and have a team that will do research that focuses on getting ready to export, market intelligence, market entry, and risk mitigation. Last one, next slide, please. Thank you. Finally, we over the past, I would say probably 18 months to 24 months, we've built a team of trade experts that will help you prepare and do some research for you before you enter into the market. So they are people who will, based on a conversation with you, prepare some information for your benefit in terms of accessing relevant information about tax. So if you have a need, please reach out to the team, and we will work with you to help you prepare to go to and trade with South Korea. This is all I have. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to help you.
Great. So thank you, Patrice. It's really wonderful to know that there's so many resources and also financial support available from EDC and also from the Trade Commissioner's Office. So you may recall our KOTRA Director General Chung listed some Canadian companies in the Korea market, and Nobis Inc. is one of them. Nobis is an outstanding example of a Canadian business that has achieved huge success in Korea. Kevin Young is the owner and founder of his parent company, Innovation Corp, proudly based in Markham. Kevin is also the president of ACCE, as you have heard from him. Under his leadership, he established many milestones for the association, including leading the first ever trade mission to China in 2019. He's passionate about entrepreneurship and leveraging his diverse experience to support multiple local initiatives, such as the Talis Pitch Business Competition. Kevin is also a current board member at SICKI's Foundation. I'm sure actually, Kevin must have more than 24 hours a day, and he never sleeps. But please tell us about Nobis' journey in Korea. I'm sure there's a thing or two that we can all learn from it. Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Sandra. I know this is our association, and we try to not sell our own people, but thank you for the very kind words. Just want to say that thank you for so far for every speaker. I found them, from Sue's practical points. I actually, as a business owner, I found them to be pretty practical, and the similar reminders that I use for myself. Patrice, certain programs we use ourselves as a business owner as well for the insurance, and that's also for the guarantee program. So I found it to be very useful as a user. So now, good afternoon. Again, Kevin here. So I'm going to put my Nobis hat on today, and I'd like to share with you about our experience in South Korea. Now, let me share the screen. Please bear with me. Sandra, for some reason, Sandra, I don't have the share screen icon for some strange reason. Do you need to add? Oh, I found it. It popped back up somehow. Okay. Yep, you just did. Thank you. Okay. And then I'll share the screen. Can everyone see?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to share. So let me start by telling you a bit about Nobis, who we are outside of Korea. So we're founded in 2007, based in Markham. We're a global premium outerwear brand integrating high level of technical functionalities with fashionable, timeless styles. We're known to be a pioneer that integrates technical functionality, constructions, exclusive materials such as high-quality Canadian down and German membranes with purposeful functional designs that create adaptive outerwear. Most of our outerwear are highly breathable, waterproof, machine washable, and are adaptive to a range of conditions and temperature. Since the beginning, we have grown our distribution to about 30 countries. Most are in wholesale channels, department stores, fashion boutiques, and online as well. In some markets, our presence are relatively new, and in some we have reached deeper penetration. And South Korea, of course, is one key one. An example of some of the retail partners. Here's the Toronto flagship store on Queen Street. Some of you might have been there. Here's the Paris store that we have opened just 3 months ago. And over the years, Nobis have been blessed to be worn and loved by a lot of influencers, celebrities, athletes around the world. And here are some examples. You might recognize some of them. I'm not gonna dwell on them. Now, we have been collaborating also regularly with different brands from the past. So we did one with the M series of BMW. We did one with Paris Saint-Germain Football Club. And recently, a few months ago, we have collaborated with Shopify to create some exclusive collections. Now, and going to today's topic, our business journey in South Korea. Now, why South Korea for us? In the last few years, Korea has been gaining huge momentum in the world of fashion, fueled by the K-pop culture, the Korean drama and music. For example, the BTS brand has become an international sensation. Market trend-wise, in recent years, Korea has become more influential over other countries in Asia or in the US. Japan used to be the only lead Asian fashion market, but now Korea is a strong contestant. South Korea is a key Asian country that also serves like strategic diversification purpose. In fact, luxury in Asia is known to be somewhat insulated from recession, and Asian markets, including South Korea, are projected to grow at impressive rates, or at least recover at impressive rates, and that are independent of European and North American economic trends. Canada, and of course, Canada and Korea, have a strong and friendly relationship, and generally Canadian brands are very well perceived by Korean consumers. Not to mention that there's also the free trade agreement that we've just heard about as well. Now, so in 2013, we entered the Korean market after reviewing a number of distributor options and proposals. Now, first, we set a few small locations, and then we take that learning about what products the Korean consumers like and not like, further refining our products and marketing strategy. In fact, over the next few years, we've been developing a lot of exclusive products and collections that are better tailored to the Korean consumer. Now, but first, going back to 2014, after we reviewed our initial entry, we decided to give it a bit of a marketing boost by properly announcing our arrival. So we hosted a fashion show, invited about 350 people. A majority of them were trendsetters, media, and influencers, and some celebrities, trying to make a good impression. One of the fashion show back in 2014. He's actually me and the other co-founder, Robin, and some celebrities who actually attended the event that day. So from 2013, we've grown our presence from 5 doors to 31, mostly direct shop-in-shops, including seasonal pop-ups and permanent shops, covering majority of top Korean cities. We have entered all major department stores, actually, of course, including Hyundai department store. To show you some of the pictures of our pop-up in the stores. This one recently in Gangnam. This one is our year-round store in Seoul, and in Lotte Avenue Oil Tower. This one in Incheon, I have not been to that one. And Busan, haven't been. And we also promoted actually our Shopify collaboration this year in South Korea. Now, in terms of our marketing strategies that we used, we studied the market with our local distributor and engaged a local marketing agency. We realized that the Korean market is very digitally connected. News travel very quickly and quite celebrity driven, a lot more so than North American markets or European. So as a result, we identified the mix of marketing strategies that will provide optimal results, we think. which include magazine editorials like product reviews, and we do that a lot here, and also product seedings in Korean TV drama, reality show, and movies, and opportunities. And there's some opportunities with celebrities who travel as well, and they call them airport fashion marketing. We also regularly engage with a number of influencers and host our in-store events. Just last month, some example, we have actually hundreds of these magazine coverage for local media. Some examples from last month. Some of the top Korean celebrities who worn our products in the past years, we share a few here. Some might recognize them, some might not. Now, here's one from last month as well. Fun fact, I want to point out that Henry Lau here on the right picture was originally from Markham. He has accomplished quite a bit of fame actually in Korea with 8 million Instagram followers, also in Asia, not just Korea. I actually remember messaging him one time and he responded to me saying, "No way, Markham, what a small world." Just thought that was cute. On the right side, on the left side, Rain is actually very famous in Korea and within Asia as well. It's wearing our new collection, and it was from last month, 2 months ago. Sorry. Now, I just want to point out this one is the main female lead in the recent Korean drama on Netflix, Crash Landing on You, and she was wearing our signature Meredith parka. This is, I think, one of the most watched dramas in Asia last year, so it was quite a bit of buzz. And on the right, Miss Park is one of the main leads in the recent Oscar-winning movie Parasite. So she's also wearing one of our parkas. A few more other celebrities, I guess. Now, we also create a different kind of activations and in-store events inside Korea. This is one example where we install, call a Lucky Crane event, where we install this toy machine and try to gamify the whole shopping experience, invite guests, and host events at stores. And a few more examples of the in-store marketing involving social media. We send influencers to the store and do postings. So to summarize, I have 4 key learnings. One, finding the right distributor or partner. You need to work, to start at least, you definitely need to work with someone local. Size isn't everything. We were approached by actually quite some really large distributor. And we at the end want to make sure that brand alignment is the most important. So we picked someone not based on their size. It worked out fantastically. And because we actually, in a way, you need to rely a lot on the local partners to make all sort of small decisions. Also, make sure you leverage your digital assets to reach and target the right audience, including social media and marketing, and even if you're in traditional businesses like ours. Always develop a localized strategy. Don't just assume your Canadian products will just sell instantly right away. Learn and adapt. Produce more fitting products for local needs. Actually, in fact, currently in our Korean market, our products is probably 40% customized for Korean customers, and whereas 60% is actually from our main line. Lastly, make sure that you invest in brand protection, such as trademarks. Once your brand gets popular and getting momentum, parallel market and counterfeit problems are really significant issues. And requires a lot of effort to manage. And so today, South Korea is one of Nobis' top performing countries. And Nobis is actually ranked one of the top 3 luxury outerwear brands by revenue and store numbers in South Korea today. And thank you.
So thank you, Kevin. So this is a wonderful story. And it seems like you're doing everything right there in South Korea. But I think the most important lesson learned is that you really have to know the market so that you can have a successful marketing strategy. So now that we have heard the story of a Canadian company in Korea, let's hear the story of a Korean company in Canada. So we are turning the table. So same as Nobis, Hyundai Canada is headquartered in Markham and has been a member of the community for over 35 years, as the mayor has mentioned. So Don Romano is the president and also chief executive officer of this incredible corporation. Don joined Hyundai in December 2013. Since taking the helm of Hyundai Canada, Don has been steadily transforming Hyundai into a premium brand. In addition to managing the success of Hyundai, Don has been focused on the development and launch of Canada's fastest growing luxury car brand, Genesis. Don was also instrumental in launching the first fuel cell vehicle for retail sale in Canada and continues to promote the expansion of zero emissions vehicles and infrastructure throughout the country. So today, Don is not going to talk just about cars. He's going to share his insights about Canada-Korea partnerships and also the opportunities presented to Canadians. Please welcome Don.
Thank you, Sandra. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well. Good.
Fantastic. You see the presentation all right?
Yes, we do.
Excellent, excellent. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you very much for having me. It's when we look at the trade that we've had between these two countries, it's been incredible. Canada is the third biggest partner in Asia, right behind China. South Korea is the biggest partner, right behind Japan and China. We're looking at more than $15 billion going between the two countries, and vehicles represent a big portion of that. 35% growth since the trade agreement has taken place. So we've been able to do so much more business and employ so many more Canadians as a result of the free trade agreement, as we've expanded from the Hyundai brand into now the Genesis brand, which happens to be the fastest growing brand in the automotive sector in Canada. Of course, when you add that together, we've enjoyed incredible market share. And I take these numbers through 2019 because 2020, I think for everybody, is pretty unusual. And we're going to have to take some time to really analyze it. But frankly, for Hyundai, it was also a good year. A lot of people shifted from mass transit and went to personal transportation ownership. And many of them considered Hyundai and Genesis for that purpose. So it's been a great 4 years for us, and we continue to grow. But the growth isn't just about providing transportation. And I think the relationship between Canada and Korea is really based on building a better world. And in that respect, obviously, economic growth is critical, especially after a difficult economic year for all countries last year. But by using the strong partnership, we've been able to form an incredible alliance with respect to lowering greenhouse gas and producing electric vehicles. Hyundai is now the second largest electric vehicle seller in Canada, next to Tesla. And we've just put the tip of the iceberg out. We have a lot more coming down the road. Oops. We introduced our Ioniq hybrid vehicles along with the Sonata hybrid vehicles. And then we came out with the Kona Electric. The Kona Electric is a small SUV. It gets over 400 kilometers on one charge. It's one of the best-selling electric vehicles in North America, and it is by far the best-selling electric vehicle here in Canada. But this is just the beginning. Later this year, we're going to introduce what we call the Ioniq brand. So we had an Ioniq model, but now we're going to come out with a complete brand of Ioniq electric vehicles, beginning with the Ioniq 5. And that will be out this summer. And it comes in all-wheel drive. It's our most advanced, most sophisticated electric vehicle we've ever produced, and by far the most technically advanced electric vehicle in the market. And in addition to electric vehicles, Hyundai was also the first to introduce hydrogen vehicles. Now, what a lot of people don't realize that hydrogen vehicles don't burn hydrogen. They're electric vehicles, but they run on hydrogen gas. And so what you have is a hydrogen tank that is running through a platform, and the platform then goes over a membrane that actually creates an electrostatic charge that's then collected by a small battery. So you're wondering, so what? Why does that matter? Well, it matters a lot because, first of all, batteries are in short supply. They're very expensive, and we think the batteries are going to completely change the world. But how do you charge those batteries? How long does it take? And while we're very much into electric battery-powered vehicles, we see hydrogen fuel cells as really the long-term future. These cars, they can charge in 5 minutes. You fill them up with hydrogen just like you would in a gas pump in 5 minutes. And they go over 600 kilometers. So just like a gasoline vehicle. But most importantly, they only use a very small battery relative to what we have in our electric vehicles. Excuse me. So when you start thinking of cars, you can think of vehicles that are like this. This is the second fuel cell vehicle that we introduced into Canada from Korea. And it is a compact SUV, but it is by far the most dynamic, most technologically advanced vehicle on the road. Unfortunately, though, we don't have a lot of infrastructure. So you're not going to see a lot of them on the roads because we don't have a lot of fuel pumps that pump hydrogen gas. And that's something we've been working on diligently. We actually have gone out and focused on with the government and with private industry and some of the greatest technology companies in the world, which happen to be in Korea and in Canada, working together to develop hydrogen highways where people can actually buy a fuel cell vehicle and then they can go and get them filled up. But what's great is, whether it's a hydrogen vehicle or whether it's a electric vehicle, the best part is that there's zero emissions and that we are creating together a better future and a sustainable future. We think that ultimately working together, leveraging the trade agreement is going to be the key to be able to bring in these new technologies, many of which are even developed here in Canada with companies like Hydrogenics and Ballard, or companies over in Korea like LG and Hyundai and Kia, all working together to find better ways to improve the future. And again, when we keep free trade in mind, it does encourage the two countries to work better together. There are some challenges, though, that we have to be aware of and that we have to continue to focus on. And that is, we do have vehicle plants that are built in North America. And, North America has free trade, which is great. And Canada and US and Korea have free trade, which is great. And this encourages further development. But just recently, last year, the USMCA adopted an interpretation of a tariff that is now going to require the vehicles that are made in Korea, that are made in the United States, built in the United States, or built in Mexico, to have a certain content. And if that content, which is far higher than NAFTA was, and is far higher than the original USMCA, if we can't meet those content requirements, which few people can, that means the tariffs are going to come back. And it's a fear, it's a concern. I think that hopefully our leaders in Ottawa and the leaders in Washington, D.C. and the leaders in Mexico City will be able to get together and resolve these new interpretations of content. There was a time when everybody was just happy that we would be bringing plants to North America and be able to then freely trade the vehicles that we build with in those plants by North Americans. And we've been able to achieve a great level of content and suppliers from North America. And hopefully, as we move further and further into higher technologies, we're going to rely on battery suppliers from all over the world, not just in any one country. And the world's going to have to come together and hopefully come together soon so that we can enjoy free trade and not mess around with the interpretations of these agreements, but just trade freely with each other and be able to work together as one large global community. I mean, we're all on this earth together, and we need to continue to advance these technologies, these zero emissions technologies, faster and faster. And the only way we're going to do it is if we all come together and work together as one in a free trade environment. I'm confident we will. I'm confident we'll sort out all the challenges that we've had over the last year in trade, and that we will be able to freely trade back and forth, and not just vehicles, but this can apply more and more to anything that we trade. We're one big global country. We are highly influenced, as Kevin just cited. I mean, to think that Parasite, a movie made in Korea, won the Academy Award. That is a epic change that shows that we are adapting not just to each other's products, but to each other's cultures. And BTS and groups like Blackpink, which, maybe if you don't know, ask your kids, they'll know. But these cultural exchanges, I think, are even more important than the product exchanges. And you can see the fashions. And we just had a great presentation from Kevin on that. And, I go back to what General Director Chung said, and that is, the key for Korea and their future and their amazing growth has been the ease of doing business. And I believe, hopefully, that Canada will follow suit. We were not on that list, but I believe we should be. We can be, because the ease of doing business means the ease of making a better world, a brighter future for everybody. And with that, I thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you, Don, for sharing your insights. And last but certainly not the least, we have a very special guest joining us from Seoul, Korea. So it's my pleasure to introduce Leo Park, team lead of Shopify Korea. So Leo arrived in Korea in January 2020 and launched Shopify Korea operation in 5 months. Before moving to Korea, he was Shopify's first revenue employee in ANC. Sorry, the screen just changed. So in ANC revenue, in ANC market, and launched Shopify Plus there, and responsible for selling, hiring, networking, business development, and channel sales. He originally joined Shopify in 2015 in Toronto, Ontario. Before joining Shopify, Leo was a co-founder and COO of a business of fashionable clothing for big and tall men. And after 2 years working for an e-commerce startup in London, Ontario, as the business development manager. So Leo, I believe now is actually 4 a.m. or after 4 a.m. your time. So I promise you next time, if I'm going to invite you to be a guest speaker, it will be within your working hours. So for now, I will let you introduce Shopify Korea and also the exciting e-commerce market in South Korea. Over to you, Leo.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time today. As Sandra mentioned, it's 4 a.m. here, so I might slur some words here and there, so please excuse me. I'll try my best to present the materials that I've prepared today, and let's go from there. I'm going to start sharing screen here. Just bear with me here. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So today I'll focus on talking a little bit about South Korea's e-commerce market, which is the 5th largest market in the world, projected to become number 3 probably by the end of 2021. But before we jump into that, I would like to talk a little bit about Shopify. Shopify is a Canadian company founded in Ottawa back in 2005. It was a startup. We still act like we are. We still work with the mentality of being a fast-growing startup with approximately 5,000 employees, serving over 3 million stores globally in 175 different countries. So our vision is to make commerce better for everyone. So we do work with entrepreneurs who are starting their business for the first time. As an example, my aunt, who is a 65-year-old, started a Shopify store a few years ago, trying to be the next Bill Gates. Who knows what's going to happen? But all the way to a business that are transacting over $1 billion in revenue online. a famous brands that you all know. Obviously, Nobis, as an example, is one of the great brands that we had we got an opportunity to work together on Shopify, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to work on some of the global expansion through Shopify in South Korea. But that's a little bit about us. But let's jump right into South Korea's e-commerce market. So a quick market overview. I think a lot of you already have mentioned in the previous presentation, but South Korea just recently became the 10th largest economy in the world. But its e-commerce market size is enormous. This is 2019 data. The country have processed over $120 billion in revenue online, and it is the 5th largest in the world after, followed by China, the US, Japan, the UK, then it's South Korea. It is, as I mentioned, it is projected to become number 3, surpassing the UK and Japan by the end of this year. So it is growing rapidly at about 22.3% year over year. And the interesting thing is the e-commerce penetration rate. So more than 30% of all online transactions, and this is last year's data, all retail transactions, it's happening online. So it's definitely a great market size for our Canadian business to tap into. And what is more attractive about this market is the purchasing power and the infrastructure that they have. It's densely populated in a small country, but they have a great purchasing power and high internet penetration. So it makes very attractive market for a lot of our global Shopify merchants, and a lot of them are interested or already have entered South Korea via Shopify. But one thing that I want to highlight is the cross-border market. So I mentioned earlier that the e-commerce market is growing at about 22.3% year-over-year growth in the last 5 years. But if you look at the cross-border market, it's growing even faster. So probably when Kevin has entered South Korean market, he probably notices too that a lot of South Korean buyers are buying directly or searching products directly from some of our global brands and partners. So it is growing at a 42.5% CAGR in the last 6 years. And obviously North America, including Canada, is one of the top markets where South Korean buyers are buying products from. So these are some of the top items. Some of you guys are probably wondering, okay, what items are being sold in South Korea? What are they buying from North America? Number 1 item is vitamins and supplements. And if we look at our data, our internal data also, the top items that are sold from Canada is vitamins and supplements. Some of you guys are probably wondering, what about post-COVID, during COVID? Still the same, vitamins and supplements. Koreans, including myself, are obsessed about our health, and we do like taking vitamins and supplements. I do believe some of our Canadian products have very strong products in health categories. So this is probably one of the categories that, if you guys are already dabbling into, it'll be an interesting verticals to look into entering South Korea. Food, apparel, shoes, electronics also have a very strong showing very strong numbers. Cosmetics, obviously, South Korean cosmetic products have a very strong value proposition globally, but some of the organic cosmetic products from North America is actually doing quite well here in South Korea. And lastly, luxury brands or mass premium products is doing quite well in South Korea as well. Probably Nobis will fall under this category. But yeah, South Korean love luxury brands, and it is continuing to do well here in South Korea. And by the way, these data is, we're talking online specifically, so the number might differ if we're talking about offline stores. So although the market presents huge opportunity, it is still very challenging for cross-border merchants. I mean, if you are thinking about entering not just South Korea but any other countries, expanding into another country from Canada, it could be quite overwhelming. Fragmented operation process. You need to figure out, okay, how are we going to do marketing, logistics? Kevin earlier mentioned about dealing with legal specific issues, sales channels, payments. And you might have already explored some of the channels or platforms, but you probably quickly realize some of the product gaps that are market-specific features, that are missing market-specific features and functionalities. And often you do not have the local experience or knowledge to actually enter a new market. And that is no different in South Korea. And if we dig in a little bit deeper into South Korea, it has extremely isolated market landscape. And this landscape doesn't make it easier for our merchants to enter South Korea. So as an example, any global social search engine or marketplaces they can think of that we're familiar with, such as Google, Amazon, even Facebook, doesn't have a strong presence in South Korea. So the number one search engine in South Korea is called Naver, and it owns more than 70% of the market share, followed by Kakao, and then Google probably owns less than 10% of the market share. So it is extremely difficult for Canadian businesses or any global brands to leverage their existing channels and network. So this is a quick screenshot of some of the local players that are dominating. And as you can see, it is isolated. And even marketplaces like Coupang, Gmarket is dominating the market. Amazon obviously recently partnered up with 11th Street, investing over $300 million to localize their catalogs through 11th Street and obviously leveraging their logistics network. But it shows a great example. Even a mega giant like Amazon is working with a local partner, localizing their catalogs. And I think they really have a good understanding of the market and how isolated it is. And even the payments. So recently, Naver and Kakao has been very active on developing their payment, getting into the fintech world, and their payment options growing very rapidly on top of obviously the credit card options. And to give you some context, more than 80% of online transactions happen online or via credit cards. So these are some of the payment options that you guys should definitely consider implementing when you're expanding into South Korea. And when it comes to marketing and communication, again, some of those global network that you're familiar with, or some of the existing communication channels that you guys are already leveraging, such as email back home, is not really effective. So South Korea, we call it a Naver nation or a Kakao nation. So when it comes to communication at work, people still use email, but when it comes to marketing, people use Kakao. So think about it as a messenger, Facebook Messenger, or WhatsApp. But here in Korea, more than 50 million active users are using Kakao. So it's definitely a number one communication channel when it comes to social and marketing. When it comes to search engine and performance marketing, you cannot ignore Naver. Like I mentioned, it owns more than 70% of the market. And this is definitely a channel that you cannot ignore, just as an example. So with all these challenges and barriers, what do we do? If you're running a Shopify store or thinking about running a Shopify store and entering South Korea, what do we do? Like Kevin mentioned, I highly recommend for you to work with a local expert. We do have a great network of Shopify experts in South Korea who could bridge all the gaps that you're looking for. So that could be store building, digital marketing, customer service, logistics, payments. They do it all. So I do, obviously some of you guys might have the local resources and local employees, or even some employees back in Canada who have local expertise, that's great. But I believe some companies do not have those resources. In that case, at least at the beginning, it'd be great to work with the right partner here in South Korea who can bridge all the gaps for you. So after the presentation, I will share some of those contact information with ACCE, Kevin and Sandra and their team. So you guys will be able to make that direct connection with some of the local partners. So let's talk a little bit about some of the market entry strategies that some of our Shopify merchants are taking. And most merchants take all three. As an example, opening up a branded store on Shopify. Obviously, like I mentioned, marketplaces is extremely important in South Korea. 70% of all online transactions happen on marketplaces. Doesn't mean you should do only marketplaces, but it is extremely important. And it also depends on what you're selling. Obviously, if you are selling high-end luxury products, marketplace might not be the best place to do so. But you really need to think about it's an important sales channel here in South Korea. And obviously, potentially opening up online B2B wholesale channel. Especially during COVID, I hear a lot from some of the Canadian businesses that, it is extremely difficult to meet our distributors or resellers because there are no trade shows. And it is extremely difficult to travel anywhere these days. So opening up a B2B and wholesale channel via Shopify could be a great option to tackle those issues, as an example. So when it comes to branded store, some of the basics that often our merchants forget about is localization. So localizing the marketing, working on the funnel piece. I highly, again, recommend you to work with a local expert on that. And it's not just about translating the content and switching the currency. It is extremely important to really localize the content strategies and overall UX and UI to fit the Korean merchant's buying journey to optimize your conversion rate and basket size. And promotion is the same. Back to school as an example, or Black Friday, Cyber Monday back home. Obviously, you need to find that equivalent sales strategies and promotional strategies here in South Korea. Payment is another great, extremely important when it comes to conversion. We have some merchants who drive great traffic, but then have a really low conversion rate because, as an example, maybe not have those local payment option that our local customers are used to. And customer support. So Korean merchants have extremely high expectations when it comes to customer support. And obviously, if you're thinking about your retention and support strategies, it is extremely important to have that high level of a customer support. For Korean merchants, I do recommend you obviously implementing some of those tools that you can leverage on Shopify. Channel IO is one of the channel that a lot of our merchants are leveraging. It let you integrate with Kakao that I mentioned earlier, SMS, texting, marketing and support channels. So it's one of the solutions that I highly recommend. But I think Kevin would agree that Korean customers have a very high standard when it comes to customer support. So I'll definitely invest quite a bit in having those phone line, not email support, Kakao support for your Korean consumers. Marketplaces. Obviously, if you do have the resources, you could potentially look into tapping into or entering the marketplaces right away directly. However, one of the challenges with dealing with some of these marketplaces in South Korea, there are just too many players. We're just not talking about eBay and Amazon. We're talking about there are about 20 different marketplaces, probably about 10 to 12 major players here in South Korea. So it is difficult to deal with all those marketing strategies and managing inventories, logistics, if you're selling through all those marketplaces. So what I recommend typically is work with one of the existing plugins in Shopify that will basically connect your Shopify store into all these marketplaces under one umbrella. So you can basically use this plugin as the source of truth to manage your store in South Korea, including Shopify. So Spursell, as an example, is one of the agencies that offer that solution. It connects your Shopify store to all these marketplaces. And the best thing about this company is that they also offer you one-stop shop services. So if you don't want to sell through these marketplaces directly or do it on your own, you can just basically leverage them as the distributor, potential online distributor through these marketplaces, and they do it all for you, including settlement, customer service, sales channels, logistics, marketing, and so on. So if you're just starting out in South Korea, this could be one of the great ways to start and experiment. The third option, the last option, is wholesale. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of existing B2B solutions that you could explore on our App Store, or our Shopify Plus, which is the enterprise solution, already offers a native wholesale solution. So this is one of the options you can tap into. Like you see on the screen, this is just a screenshot of our demo store. We have a wholesale section, obviously, which will be exclusive to your wholesale or B2B customers. And the system allows you to basically build out a wholesale specific UX UI. So the customers, the B2B customers, will enter the wholesale section with their ID and password, and the pricing will be tiered based on the logic that you set up. So you might have a customer ABC, depending on which region you're targeting, and they will be all on different pricing model. And obviously they will go through the typical B2B buying journey, which is quite different from a B2C customer experience and buying journey, and even a checkout experience that's totally different. So considering it's COVID, but obviously B2B commerce, we see B2B commerce online is already projected to be larger than B2C commerce. And a lot of our B2B customers prefer looking for information and even purchasing products from online. So I'll share some of those data after the presentation so you can have a look, but it's definitely one of the highly recommended options for you guys to tap into if you guys are already dealing with some of your resellers or looking for resellers in some of these regions. So what are the next steps? So like I mentioned, I will share some of those expert information with ACCE, so you guys will be able to connect with them directly. And we also have an existing global commerce playbook that talks about different strategies that you could take advantage of through Shopify to enter a new market. So I'll share that PDF doc with everyone. So hopefully you guys will find that useful. That's all the content that I prepared today. Thanks so much for taking the time, and I hope I didn't slur too much. So thank you.
Thank you, Leo. This is a lot of information, and we really appreciate your time and joining us today. So we are running a little bit behind, but I'm hoping to squeeze in one or two questions so that the audience will have a chance to connect with the presenters. So the first question actually is for Director General Chung from KOTRA. So as we have seen through the presentation, it was mentioned multiple times that partnership is the key to succeed. So how can Canadian companies find the right partners in Korea? So Director General Chung, could you please expand on this?
Yeah.
So how can we find the...
Yeah, I think that there is many ways to find these solutions. First, maybe you have to contact Canadian relevant authorities, such as Trade Commission in Korea, or Global Affairs Toronto office, or Invest Canada. Also, there is some relevant authority in Korea, such as Canada Korea Business Association, or Korea Import Associations, and Korea Trade Associations. Maybe they can share useful information with you and may advise you on the appropriate way regarding trade activities. And I strongly suggest all of you to visit Korea. Seeing is believing. You can visit with Canadian delegations or as alone. But if you go with the Canadian delegations or Markham delegation to Korea, maybe you can save your cost or land conveniently in Korea.
That's great. I really look forward to visiting Korea, and hopefully we will lead a delegation to Asia. And if we do, South Korea will most likely be one of the destinations. So that's another question that is open to all the panelists. So feel free to jump in. So what is how do we communicate effectively with South Koreans? So what are some of the business cultures that Canadians should be aware of? Anyone would like to take it up? It's open to all the panelists.
I'll say a few words as a Canadian kind of perspective. I guess I found them to be extremely respectful culture, very, very organized, very structured, and also very on time, everything. So don't be late for any of your arrangements. So it is a very compatible culture in a way. Is actually, in fact, the distributor relationship I have, I would rank one of the most friendliest relationships I have compared to the other countries or distributors that I have. So my distributor actually became a personal friend, and that's why I went last year and to take my whole family to the countdown in Seoul. This was just last December, not this December, the December before COVID. So it was. I would just say that it's culturally is a very compatible, respectful, and a friendly one that I found it pretty personally beneficial as well. Yeah.
So Leo, would you have any? What is your comment?
I think Kevin covered quite a bit there, but I would probably reiterate fact that things move fast and people expect answers right away. So I remember coming here January last year, and back in Canada as an example, if you say you'll get back to someone by the end of the day, you'll finish all your tasks and you'll probably write the follow-up email at the end of the day or maybe the next morning. That doesn't happen here in South Korea. If they say, oh, I'll expect follow-up information from you, probably they expect an answer from you within the next 15 minutes. So that's something that I had to adopt to and learn here in South Korea. So if you're engaging with someone and if it's an important deal that you're dealing with, and I think Don would agree, working with this with the South Korean company, they move fast. Things move fast, which could be really good sometimes because they execute fast and they deliver results really fast. But sometimes that pace could be a bit overwhelming for some of our Canadian businesses. So something that you need to get used to. But once you get used to it, I think it's a good thing. And use Kakao.
So how about language? So if I'm going to visit Korea for business, do I always need to have a local translator or interpreter with me?
I mean, I think it depends which industry you're in. I was actually really surprised by the level of English efficiencies a lot of these companies had. But I think it's always safe and safer to have someone that you can trust or translators in some of these meetings. But most companies will have someone who will be able to communicate with you in English. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Great. So this one probably is for either for Sue or for Patrice. So how do you access government public tenders? So is this something that the Trade Commissioner's Office can help or EDC can help?
It's Patrice here. Bear with me. I think the local Trade Commissioner, I don't know if Sue is still on the line, but I think the people from Trade Commissioner Service located in Korea would be in a better position to help you than us here. We do at EDC, we do have offices in a number of countries, including China, Singapore, Hong Kong, in India, and Australia. We don't have one in Korea. So for that reason, that's why I'm referring to the TCS, and they are typically well connected to what's happening in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. So I think Sue might have something to add.
Just in agreement, absolutely. I'm not sure what kind of government procurement, if you're looking for specifically at the federal level within the Republic of Korea. I know there's been some really excellent cooperation between KOTRA and our group of the Ontario Small Medium Size and Network Small and Medium Size Businesses Network to do open up and demystify the federal procurement process on both countries, both bilateral sides, because they are quite large and often intimidating processes until you've done them. Once you've done them and you have that kind of template and that pipeline through, and you've even made your vendor marks or you've been accepted, then it can come quite easily. But yes, there are sources both domestically here in Canada about the Canadian federal procurement, but also to open up and to understand more on the Republic of Korea side. So please, whoever is asking that question, send some contacts and we will make sure that you get that serve and refer model will make sure that you get to the right person or resources.
So that's great because there's a lot of resources and support here from KOTRA, from TCS, and from EDC, etc. So, but unfortunately, that might be all the time we have. So it's been a fabulous conversation, and I do apologize to those who probably we didn't have a chance to have their questions answered. But we are going to break out into breakout sessions so that you will still have a chance to ask your specific questions with the presenters. So thank you again to the entire panel for a fantastic conversation. The program doesn't end here. So please join the presenters in the breakout rooms where you can meet and also connect with the presenters as well as fellow participants. So there are going to be 3 breakout rooms. The first one is going to be hosted by the Trade Commissioner's Office, Sue Ralph, and also EDC Patrice. And then the second room is hosted by Kevin Young, Nobis, and also Don Romano from Hyundai. And then the third is going to be hosted by Leo Park from Shopify Korea. So if you have any cross-border e-commerce questions, you can visit that room. So as a reminder, you can find the breakout room button at the bottom of your screen. Between the reaction button and also the recording button. So you'll be placed into the waiting room, and then you can choose whichever room you would like to go to, and so you can navigate the 3 rooms. And also you can turn your microphone and also your video on as well to communicate with the presenters. So we have about 30 minutes for this networking session. And that we are planning to end the program at around 3:30, or if you have more, if the presenters are available, probably it might be a few minutes longer. But before we leave for those breakout sessions, I would like to thank the panel again for this wonderful discussion. And also I want to thank Consul General Tae-in Chung, our Mayor Scarpitti, our City Councilors, Councilor Alan Ho, Amanda Colucci, Isali, and also our Deputy Mayor Don Hamilton, who has joined us, our Commissioner Arvind Prasad, Acting Director of Economic Development, Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship, Christina Kakafleckers. And I also want to especially thank ACCE for partnering with the City of Markham on this very, very useful session. And I want to shout out to Karen Ng and also Sammy Lee with ACCE, who has been behind the scene helping us to put this event together. And to everybody, I appreciate you being here. So thank you for joining us. And finally, if you are export ready and are looking for suppliers, distributors, or partners in South Korea, please send me an email. The City of Markham and ACCE are planning the next step, and we'll continue to work with our partners to deliver programs that can help you access the Korean market. So please do send me an email indicating your interest, and we'll keep you updated for these opportunities. And my email address is in the chat box. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the session. 감사합니다.